Holy Terra, the throne world, the birthplace of humanity, and now the epicenter of a gene-stealer cult infestation. What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and today I'm back to talk about Warhammer 40K. So let's rewind time to about a week ago, where the Warhammer community put out an article on Shadow Throne and pretty much the Gene-Stealer cult on Terra being something that's pretty bad. Now, of course, Terra is the most heavily defended place in the entire Imperium, since that is where the Emperor resides and where humanity pretty much gets their hope from. So with that being said, this article pretty much goes through the top 3 things that have befallen Terra and put that doom-o-meter, or the clock, basically going closer and closer to doomsday, aka midnight. And they say that coming in at the 3rd worst thing to happen to the Imperium and Terra is the Age of Apostasy. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I hear the Age of Apostasy, I think of maybe the Mediterranean or the Pacific Ocean being replaced with linguine. Get it? Apostasy? Anyway, the Age of Apostasy is a pretty bad time in the history of the Imperium. It's when none other than Gouge Van Dyer's reign of blood was pretty much usurping the power of the Emperor and a lot of High Lords, and he was essentially the one in charge. This led to a rife civil war across the entire galaxy, but most importantly, the Imperium. So Van Dyer was a piece of shit, really. He basically went up to people and said, I have been chosen by the Emperor, I will be his mouthpiece, and there's nothing that you guys can say or do because the Emperor has willed it. Now, of course, the Imperium is, quick to point, yeah, prove it. And Van Dyer said, go ahead, take your bolter and shoot me, and I promise you that the Emperor will protect me. Now, the sneaky yet smart Van Dyer actually had I believe it was like a Rosarius or some type of device that protected him. That 4-up invuln save comes in clutch when you're trying to be blessed by the Emperor. And they shot him, and of course the force field reflected the bolt, and a bright white holy light protected him from getting his head blown off. So because of this, he was able to lead the Imperium in any which way that he wanted. He found I guess you could call it a cult, per se, or the Brides of the Emperor, which were essentially the Sisters of Battle before they were the Sisters of Battle, and he used them as his own personal army. Now, since he was leading the bureaucracy and the politics of Terra, people kind of just took it as face value. Like, they saw him survive this encounter, and obviously he was being blessed by the Emperor. I mean, how else could he survive? So this led to war and schisms throughout the galaxy, some people professing that he was a false prophet, others praising him as the one true mouthpiece of the God Emperor, and eventually that's when the Imperium's Space Marines finally had enough, and they're like, you know what, let's go ahead and do something about this. Now, the thing that's weird about this is that why didn't the Adeptus Custodes act? And that's pretty much because they weren't ordered to. Like, their main thing is to protect the Emperor, and that's all they did. Who cares if this guy says he's the mouthpiece of the Emperor, as long as he's not endangering the Emperor itself? They didn't do anything about it. So, again, we go back to the Black Templars, who were outraged that treachery had been basically left untouched via Gouge Van Dyer's ways, and High Marshal Sigundus declared a crusade against Holy Terra itself. Blasphemy and heresy in the eyes of those loyal to Van Dyer. Now, of course, you had other chapters that also rallied to their cause, like the Imperial Fists, and none other than the Ecclesiarchs Sebastian Thor and his Confederation of Light. Together, they went across multiple battles to set foot on the throne world of Terra itself, but not as protectors, as invaders. But they saw it the other way around. Now, the fighting was bloody, and it dragged on for many months. Now, think of it like this. The Space Marines weren't fighting against Space Marines. These Space Marines were fighting against none other than the Brides of the Emperor, the soon-to-be Sisters of Battle. So you have religiously, devout women who are head over heels over, Goj Vandire and the Emperor. They would do anything that the Emperor says for them to do, and they were fighting to just, for their own benefits. They were fighting to protect their god. So of course, they were zealots. They were doing anything and everything they could to hold back this invasion by the Space Marines. And these Space Marines, these super soldiers, these genetically enhanced warriors that are made to fight, were at a standstill against the Sisters of Battle for months. And this deadlock was only eventually broken when none other than Alicia Dominica, the head of Goj Vandire's bodyguard, was granted an audience before the Golden Throne as a companion of the Adeptus Custodes. She then learned the truth of her master's heresy. And that's crazy, because it took her getting into the Golden Throne and speaking to the Emperor herself for her to find out that, yeah, this dude's just spouting a bunch of BS. So at that time, when she learned the truth of Vandire's heresy, she went to Vandire directly. Now, let me tell you the words she said to him in Vandire's response. "You have committed the ultimate heresy. Not only have you turned your back on the Emperor and stepped from his light, you have profaned his name and almost destroyed everything he has striven to build. You have perverted and twisted the faith he had laid for mankind to tread. As your own decrees have stated, there can be no mercy for such a criminal. I renounce your lordship. You walk in the darkness and cannot be allowed to live. Your sentence has been long overdue, and now it is time for you to die." Vandire simply remarks, "I don't have time to die. I'm too busy." And with that, she goes and unsheaths her power sword and goes for a beheading strike. And believe it or not, his Rosarius failed him at that pivotal moment, and down goes the false ruler, head falling against the cold, hard floor, and the reign of blood has ended. Now after this, Sebastian Thor and the Ecclesiarchy basically had to figure out what to do with the Brides of the Emperor, and because the Ecclesiarchy had a rule stated that said that they couldn't have an actual army, or I believe it was men at arms, they kind of worked around this rule because these were no men, these are women. So the Ecclesiarchy now had their own army, and they are quite an asset to the Imperium. It's interesting to see the Doomometer that Warhammer community put here. So it goes on a scale of 1 to 10, and they only rated it a 7. I think it could have gone a lot worse, especially if Vandire was just led to do whatever he wanted. That's basically like Horus saying, yeah, I'm in control, and he actually controls the Imperium for a long time. So maybe that Doomometer should have been higher on the list. But what do you guys think about the Reign of Blood? Do you think it only means that it could have been far worse, or does it deserve that 7 on this clock towards midnight, this countdown to doom? But yeah, with that being said, that's all I got for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts on the Reign of Blood, Goj Vandire, Sebastian Thor, the Sisters of Battle, and do you think the Custodes should have done something more than letting it get to that point and then just saying, you know what, talk to the Emperor yourselves? But yeah, with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one. This has been The Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'll see you then.